One morning, I watched Casablanca for the 54th time about 24 years ago. Loved it, and at the end of the movie, Humphrey Bogart shoots the bad guy, Major Strasser. It's 1942 in Casablanca, and Claude Rains, a wonderful character actor, picks up about a Vichy water, which kind of looks like this. Yeah, I got my props here, you know.
Yeah, I see that. I love it.
Yep. And he looks at the label. Anything in 1942 that had the word Vichy in it generally was connotative of conspiring with the Germans. He throws it in the garbage. I grabbed my head and I yelled, "Oh my God!" My wife said, "Are you all right? What happened?" I said, "It's a novel in my head." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, this whole gigantic novel is in my head. So I came down here, sat in this chair, outlined the novel, and 5 years later, this got published.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am again your host, Mike Hoffman. And today I am joined by a multifaceted person and an author, Mr. Calvin Schwartz. Calvin, how you doing today?
I'm fine. As we chatted before we went on air, we're here and outside. We literally, both of us, looking at 2 feet of snow.
Yep, it's one of those days. It's nice to be inside, and nice to be warm.
It sure is. It sure is.
And if we wanted to be outside, well, we don't have a choice because we're not getting out of here for a few days.
Correct. And it's funny. I just stuck my head outside just to look. Feast of Stephen. That was an old evil song. The Feast of Stephen, which means looking out on the snow. And somebody had the temerity to pull their car out and try to drive, and they made it as far to the intersection, and they're stuck, and they're trying to wave down people to help them. And I laughed.
Yep. Stay home, stay warm, and we'll have a nice conversation. So, as I was researching you a little bit, a lot of things seem very interesting, but the thing that really kind of crossed me the most is you've had quite the experiences, and, one might say you have 9 lives.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's a very, I like that. That's never been thrown at me before. Like that. Yeah, I have. If I really look at it and examine, I have had 9 lives, and attribute a lot of that to some unusual spirituality. And I have to preface my remarks by saying I am a regular guy. I wear a Rutgers hat. I go to Rutgers college football games, basketball games. I eat tuna fish sub sandwiches. I'm as regular as they come. I got a picture of the Yankees over here. On the other hand, I've been gifted with some extraordinary spirituality. And all these events, you sit and you look back on them and you say, "Oh my gosh, this is some really unusual stuff." So yeah, I have been 9 lives to the point where I actually wrote Pope Leo 4 or 5 months ago. I bullet pointed. He had to research this. You just can't write the Pope, and I had to do all the protocol. But I wanted him to know this extraordinary spirituality, things that have happened that fall under the banner of inexplicable. And I'm a regular guy, so
it's crazy. So just to recap some of it, you survived a Volkswagen rolling over 5 times at about 65 miles an hour without a scratch. You were healed of a devastating knee injury walking out of a church in Nazareth.
Correct.
And you once, in a 2.5 month span, dropped 100 pounds.
Correct. And there's one more.
Well, that last one, you had to put some work into that last one for sure.
Yeah. Being healed, is that what you're asking?
No, but to lose 100 pounds in 2.5 months has to take some work. That one just can't be all.
That was extraordinary, and it's funny. I write about it in one of my novels. Voice one morning. I weighed 350 plus pounds here in this house. I weighed 350 pounds. I smoked, me of all people, who's such a health freak. I smoked, weighed 350 pounds, couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. And one evening, going upstairs to go to bed, I couldn't actually walk up a flight of stairs. I was gasping for breath. That was 1989, July 21st, 1989 to be exact. And I woke up that morning and I heard a voice. I heard a voice, and it was loud and clear. I can't tell what gender. It said trust. And then I thought about it and realized I was dying. Dying. I knew I was dying. I was doing everything wrong. And then something came over me. If I could bottle it and I could sell it at Walmart, I'd make a lot of money. Something said, stop smoking, start exercising, and go on a diet. So my wife woke a few minutes later, and I said, today's the first day of the rest of my life. I'm taking care of all family business, which is, I borrowed a line from Michael Corleone, Godfather, when he says, I take care of all family business today. I wiped out the heads of 5 families. So I told my wife, I'm taking care of all
Yeah.
family business today. And she, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going on a diet. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to lose weight. And I was so possessed. I took my cigarettes. I crushed them. Not easy. Usually my wife said you can do one or the other. Nobody diets and stop smoking. You do one or the other and kind of, I said, no, I got to do everything. And I was so possessed.
Yeah.
Uh, I was doing 500 calories a day obsessively. Uh, no sugar, just literally a piece of chicken. But anyway, in 2.5 months, I did lose 100 pounds, and there's a comedic element to that. It's 1989. It was in the middle of it was in the middle of AIDS, and I was in the eyeglass business, and I was calling opticians and optometrists, and I was on like a 3 month cycle. So if I hadn't seen anybody in 3 months, and I walked
Yeah.
in, they didn't recognize me. The word on the street was I had AIDS uh, because the weight loss was so dramatic. Uh,
Yeah.
but it changed my whole life around. It saved my life, and I've never looked back from that. Uh, and I went from not being able to walk up a flight of stairs 2.5 years later when I took up tennis. I was able to play 6.5 hours of tennis straight at the Marlboro Swim Club.
Well,
Mixed
nice.
doubles, it was 90 degrees. I played 6.5 hours of tennis straight. And so you can take a body from the brink of whatever and rebuild it because the body wants to be rebuilt, I guess. And
Yeah.
so I
No,
went from,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, you definitely have the mindset. You can just tell with a bunch of things in your life that you put your mind to something, you could do it because same thing with your what I'll call your professional career. You were in one career and then you just suddenly decided, okay, I'm going to be a novelist. So kind of talk about that transition.
Well, I started life out as a pharmacist. Went to pharmacy school, became a pharmacist. I was not put on this earth to be a pharmacist because the curriculum was science and chemistry and physics, everything I despised. I had to
Yeah.
take. So that in and of itself is a journey. How do you study for this stuff? Hated everything, and I kind of got through the whole curriculum, piecemeal, but I did it. And I was a pharmacist 12 years. I did community pharmacy and stuff. And one day I awoke uh, to my wife, and I said, my poor wife, she's out there and she's the brunt of all these changes. I said, I'm quitting my profession today. I'm quitting. She said,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I'm quitting. I can't do this pharmacy thing. She said, what are you going to do? We just bought a house. We're living in East Brunswick at the time. What are you going to do? We just got married. I said, I don't know. I'll figure something out. And I sat home for 6 months. I got caught up on the Rockford Files, General Hospital, One Life to Live. Uh,
Yeah.
and she's teaching in Brooklyn, and I'm watching TV and having a grand old time. Uh, I said, Calvin, you got to save your marriage. You got to do something. I can get you a job selling eyeglasses. So it was desperation. I didn't know if I can actually get in front of people and sell eyeglasses. Uh, and I took the job. And within a year, I got a job working for people like me. And so I got a job working for a company called Luxottica Group, which was up and coming, a big eyewear company. And I wound up staying there, Mike, 25 years. And
Wow.
the guy I worked for became the richest Italian in the world. Luxottica Group went ahead and bought LensCrafters and Pearl and Ray-Ban and everything under the sun. I watched all of that unfold, and I stayed 25 years there. Loved every second of it. Took 50 courses in support and sales, because everything you do in life is a sale. I mean, all that. And then one morning, I watched Casablanca for the 54th time about 24 years ago. Loved it, and at the end of the movie, Humphrey Bogart shoots the bad guy, Major Strasser. It's 1942 in Casablanca, and Claude Rains, a wonderful character actor, picks up about a Vichy water, which kind of looks like this. I got my props here.
Yeah, I see that. I love it.
Yep. And he looks at the label. Anything in 1942 that had the word Vichy in it generally was connotative of conspiring with the Germans. He throws it in the garbage. I grabbed my head and I yelled, "Oh my God!" My wife said, "Are you all right? What happened?" I said, "There's a novel in my head." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, this whole gigantic novel is in my head." So I came down here, sat in this chair, outlined the novel, and 5 years later, this got published, Vichy Water. Funny thing, I did nothing with this. Nothing. But it became a vehicle for me to completely revamp and change my life around. So you can do the math. So 15 years ago, I was 65. I retired
Yeah.
from Exotica and decided, hey, if I can do this, my gosh, I could do anything. So I became a journalist. Writing for a couple of magazines here in New Jersey, and then I got hooked up with NJ Discover and Kurt, which was a wonderful, amazing production company. And before I knew it, blinked an eye, and I had a cable TV talk show. I was the producer and the co-host. At our peak, we had Gilbert Gottfried here, Frankie Previtt, and won an Academy Award for Dirty Dancing. So I'm doing all these things because I'm doing them. It led
Yeah.
to my writing more novels. It led to my I wanted to get back to Rutgers because I'm a loyal Rutgers son. I started mentoring kids, and before I know it, I was teaching at Rutgers. All this stuff, from nowhere.
Just so, yeah, it's amazing because a lot of people have career changes, but you really drastically changed, multiple times. And the eyeglass obviously wasn't what you really wanted to do, but you obviously had your responsibilities for your family. But it's just amazing. Then you shifted at, at a much later point in life, into the books. So now, how many books have you written now?
Uh, After Vichy Water, I've written two. 7 years ago, I decided to tell my story. Uh, I wanted to tell this spiritual story because it's really unusual. So I sat down and I just kind of felt this whole spiritual element. It doesn't take me away from watching, the Jets and Giants on Sundays and feeling pain, uh, stuff.
Yeah,
But I outlined a novel and I wrote "There's a Tortoise in My Hair: A Journey to Spirit," which is fiction, but it's part of my journey. Uh,
sure.
Go figure. I've now gotten 6 awards for this book, including the Kirkus Star. Gotten 6 national awards, and I laugh because I don't look in the mirror when I'm shaving and say, "Hey, you're a writer, Calvin." I don't buy into that, but I guess I am.
Yeah,
Um, and then one more book, and I'm a networker. I'm an old-fashioned networker. I have a nice presence on social media, uh, LinkedIn, and one day, a year or so ago, life is funny sometimes how these things come about. Uh, it was a year ago, somebody I didn't know on LinkedIn said, "Hey, Calvin," typed me a little thing. "There's a new group forming called Bold Authors Network. You're self-published, and they're all self-published. Why don't you?" I didn't know the guy. I still don't know the guy. And he said, "Why don't you go check it out?" And he gave me a link. I checked it out and went to my first meeting a year ago in January. She's great. The woman's Kay Wagner. She's a best-selling author in and of herself. Best-selling author. She has this group, a support group that every week we meet and we talk about different things. I joined, and last March she read Tortoise book and said, "Hey, Calvin, there's 4 books inside there." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Your story about adoption. It's an amazing story. Uh, that's a book." And I said, "It is an amazing story. I had operations. My wife did in vitro, all kinds of stuff. We adopted. Boom, boom." Then she said, "Calvin, you worked for the richest Italian in the world the eyeglass business for 25 years. Did you learn anything? I said, are you kidding me? I learned a ton of stuff. She said, that's the book. I thought about it. That was last March, last April. We talked a little bit more about it. This May, I said, you know what? I'll scribble down some things I learned because I learned some really powerful lessons about life and selling and stuff.
Yeah.
And last June, we decided she and I are going to collaborate. And I'm going to do the Calvin stuff, and she'll do clinical stuff. So we started writing last July, just August. We finished, and in December, this got published. 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire. And, it's
And both
just
your books are on Amazon, correct?
correct, correct.
Good. So people who want to see it could definitely check it down.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, because I know this is part of your bio, and I apologize for not knowing what it means. What is a flexitarian?
Ah, okay. Um, it's a relatively new term, I guess. It's 1975. It's 1975. A flexitarian is somebody who doesn't eat anything with four legs. It's
Okay.
not a vegan. It's not a vegetarian. It's not a vegan. It's kind of a hybrid. Uh, uh, the story was I had gotten divorced, first wife, and I was dating, and I read all these magazines on dating in the '70s, and you have to find commonality. So I got fixed up with a blind date, and I picked a girl up. She lived in Short Hills, and I said, look, we're going to go to the city tonight. We'll go out. She said, movie's great, but I can only eat in one restaurant. I'm vegan. I said, hey, that's fine. That's cool. I said, well, I am too, because I wanted, because psychology today and Cosmo said you got to find commonality. So she said she's vegan. I
Common
said, my
interest.
God, so am I. I'm a vegan. Of course, I lied, and I lied, and something clicked in my head, and I thought this was kind of cool. Even to say, hey, I'm a vegan. So I became a vegan. It lasted about a month. I battled with my mother because I was living at home now. Every night, she said, Calvin, I can't make separate things for you. So I compromised with her. I said, you know what? I'm not going to eat anything with four legs. And there's some
Mhm.
environmental concerns here too. So I'll eat chicken, I'll eat fish, and I'll eat turkey. They don't have four legs. And I've been that ever since. I've been a flexitarian ever since. And I love corned beef and pastrami and steak,
Mhm.
uh, hamburger and hot dogs. Love, love, love. I just haven't eaten it.
Well,
And
that kind of goes back to the discipline you've possessed through all this. I mean, obviously, you putting your mind to something, it seems to be the central theme here. So whether it's with your diet, whether it's with your career choice, whether it's with the writing, you have that innate gift that I think a lot of people wish they had that don't have, where you can set a goal and actually can stick with it and fight through it and get there. For a lot of us, it's easy to say make a New Year's resolution, and by January 5th it's over, or say I'm going to do this or do that, and the intentions are always good, but the results never are.
and I look back. Listen, I no, I look back on a lot of that and trying to understand that. I certainly know that my not eating meat has contributed to some really good, healthy results. A couple of years ago, I'm really friendly with my cardiologist. We did I'm always doing blood tests and at that point, a couple of years ago, I had zero coronary artery plaque. Now, a good friend is a gastroenterologist. Calvin, that fact you don't eat meat doesn't, uh, and I argue with him. I said, well, something's going on here. I had zero coronary artery plaque, which means, Mike, that all the blood flowing up to this thing up here on my two shoulders is unimpeded.
Yeah.
So all these cells up here get nourished. And it allows me, as an octogenarian now, to
Oh, yeah.
continue to write. I want to write 3 more books this year. I have my own podcast. We could talk about that because I'd love to interview
That
you.
was next on my list.
Boom. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the podcast also. That podcast was born. But anyway, back to the lifestyle. It's been a great lifestyle, and I'm walking around with 112 cholesterol. My doctor laughs at me sometimes. He says, Calvin, you go down below 100, you got to start eating eggs every day
Yeah.
because you do need cholesterol, for your body to make cell walls
Right.
and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So, but I cheated when I turned 75. My son went to Katz's and brought home a pastrami sandwich for me. I took a bite and spit it out. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
So,
Your body changed. Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about the podcast. Tell me what it's about.
So, here it is. It's August of 2020. My TV show is on hiatus. I love saying that.
Okay.
It sounds like I'm in the Today Show or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
hiatus. I can't do anything, and I was on LinkedIn, and I had connected with a student from Rutgers. She was a track star, triple jump record holder, a sophomore. We connected and sent her a message, and she just seemed so grounded and so interesting for a sophomore
Hmm.
that I said, "Hey, you want to talk on the phone?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." We talked on the phone, and a light bulb went off. I could interview. There are endless amounts of people like her who are so interesting in all different shapes and sizes, uh, and the light bulb went off. I'm going to do a podcast, conversation with Calvin, We the Species. So it got born in September 2020, and
Hmm.
it filled in really nicely for the TV show, which never came back. And I knew I wanted to interview and talk to people. Uh, love diversity. Uh, and after a year, it grew to 1,000 subscribers. And I did a lot of Rutgers people, and age was completely diverse. And over the last 5 more years, it's gone global now. I interview people all over the world. Just I interviewed somebody in India, somebody in India, all over the
Yeah.
world. I talk about anything and everything except two things: no politics, no religion. And I've interviewed people in Cameroon, Nigeria, Egypt, Lebanon, India, Italy, Borneo, Australia, Ecuador, Mexico. It's a beautiful thing. It
Yeah.
really it's a beautiful thing. There's so much to talk about. No politics, just no religion.
Yeah. That's your best conversations. Keep those two things out of it. You'll be safe.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I agree. I'm nearing my 100th episode of this, and no political discussions, no religious discussions on the first 96. So,
Correct. Correct. It's funny. I shave in the morning, and I look in the mirror, and sometimes I talk to myself. I
mhm.
say, Calvin, uh, everybody likes you. There is no reason to dislike you because
Right?
I'm not.
Don't give them a reason to.
There's no reason. And you know what? Those things, let somebody else, kind of deal with it. Yeah, sure. The fact that I walked out, you alluded to that earlier. It was in the Holy Land in 2016. When I couldn't even walk. I was walking with a cane, and I'm really friendly with my orthopedist. And He did everything under the sun that mankind can do to a poor knee for 2 years, and I mean, I did it all, even some illegal things. I even had some doctor from Columbia, not university, but the country,
Right, right. The country.
inject DMSO into my knee. DMSO is dimethyl sulfoxide. It's a lot of things. They use it in Europe. We don't use it here. It's illegal. They inject it into the knees of horses to help them run faster. So, I mean, I had everything done, stem cells and PRP, blood platelets, and I mean the whole.
Yeah,
Nothing worked. The pain was excruciating, and I was heading down the road to getting a new knee. And we had planned this trip to go to the Holy Land, Israel, and stuff, and back out because I'm walking with a cane, and
of course.
And I didn't want to. On the other hand, I didn't want to ruin a trip for my wife and sister-in-law, cousin. So I said, I'll go. The quid pro quo is if I go and we're going for 12 days, I want 2 days to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And they said, all right, deal. Okay. So the first day, first full day there, uh, I got permission from a Muslim school to climb on top of the roof because it's really close to the Temple Mount. And that's a holy place, and it is holy, spiritual. Took some pictures, and later on that day, I went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, really holy place. You walk in, you look
Mm-hmm.
on the second floor, and that's where Christ was crucified. And you walk further in. This day, they let two people crawl through a little tunnel, get into like a little cubicle there where Christ's casket is. I meditated. I was with my sister. I meditated, and uh, very holy place. It's hard to even describe. It's powerful. And then
Mm-hmm.
next to the last day there, I wanted to go to Nazareth and see Joseph Church and Mary's Church. I was alone because nobody wants to walk with me. I walk so slow with the cane. I did Joseph Church. I did Mary's Church. Walked down to the basement. There's a shrine. I meditate. I'm a spiritual guy. I meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking up and I'm feeling all kinds of terrible pain in my knee. Uh, there's a side entrance. And I walk to the side entrance, take one step out. And I yell, "Oh my goodness. Wow." And everybody comes running. "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine, but I just got healed. There's no more cane. There's no more pain. There's no more knee operation. I mean, I can't play tennis." But,
Yeah.
so, I come back here to Marlboro. I asked my orthopedist, "Hey, you've been treating me all these years. What's the deal here?" No, there is no.
Yeah. No idea.
There is no. You know what? There is no. Uh, and I'm a regular guy. I went back and started going to Rutgers football games and stuff, and uh, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a
Sounds
gift.
like it.
And I'm no expert in this stuff, but we all have that. It's a matter of taking that antenna that's built in,
Mm-hmm.
unfurling it, and let it go up
Yeah.
there. We just did it, and all this stuff. The more the more you open, the more you get. The more you're open, the more you receive, the more you get, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm no expert.
Impressive. Impressive. So, how can people find you? Obviously, your two books are both on Amazon,
Uh
but
huh.
how can people find you on social media?
Okay. I'm Calvin Schwartz on LinkedIn. The nice thing about Calvin Schwartz is only 4 or 5 in America.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Uh, I'm one easy guy to find. So on LinkedIn, Calvin Schwartz. On Facebook, I'm all over Facebook. I'm Cal Schwartz on Facebook. I'm calvinschwartz.com. My website and my books are there. I'm also really hands-on. While the going is good, I'm hands-on and responsive, and I love to engage and talk to people like
Awesome.
they
Well,
do.
it's been definitely a fascinating journey for you, and it looks like you're not letting up anytime soon with all the new books and so forth. So I appreciate you talking to us, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Hey, uh, in the words of Clint Eastwood, Mike, from one of his Dirty Harry movies, "You made my day."
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.